Good afternoon, everybody. There we go. All right. Hey, good afternoon. Before we get going today, as we all know, this is the first time we're getting together for this session. But I want to, before we start anything, I'm going to turn it over to Judge Scoggins in a moment to bless us. But I want to thank Chairman Gunter and the entire Judiciary Committee. We sure do appreciate you joining us. I know that you guys are having some type of allergic reaction to not being in Judiciary. So we get that. And by the way, this has been time limited to 2 hours. So this is only like 1/4 of a normal Judiciary meeting. So with that being stated, Judge Scoggins, could I recognize you, please, to bless the meeting?
Moan. Okay. Let's pray, please. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity we have to meet today. Thank you for your grace and mercy that you have on us every day. We know that all things are by you and through you. We ask for your wisdom and guidance through all our decision making. And these things I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. So members of the committee, so thank you very much. I know that we are only, I believe, in day 8, but it feels like day 18. Everyone's trying to scramble and get things moved along. This is a pretty important set of discussions that we're going to have. Hence, when I approached, I just want to keep calling you Judge Gunter, but when I approached Chairman Gunter and I said, we're going to be taking up something that frankly just hasn't really been taken up in the entire country, which is how AI can be used for adverse purposes by bad actors in so many different ways. And to just set the committee's expectations, we have discussed, amongst others, between the Vice Chair Brad Thomas, Chair Gunter, and others, we've talked about what it means to be in business in terms of, well, how generative AI can be used, I'll say, by good actors and by bad actors, how those bad actors could disrupt business, disrupt what business is doing in terms of intellectual property, innovation, etc. We've also talked about what the state government has in terms of its responsibility and what we need to be able to do to make sure that the state government is doing the right thing. But at the same time, we don't want to stymie state government. We want them to use AI, I'll say, for the good to create greater value for our constituents. And then finally, we talked extensively about what we all are calling 986, the elections bill. Typically, that causes some type of knee-jerk reaction at the Capitol. But in this case, I think we can sit and talk about this bill in a bipartisan manner, because I think it would affect all of us if generative AI and other uses of technologies are used in an adverse manner. And we don't want that used at any level of government and any level of our elections. So I do want to call out, and I apologize, Mr. Amati. I always forget his official title, but he heads up the Ethics Commission, and I don't know if he's here yet, but I do want to thank, I do want to thank him for taking the time to meet with several members, because we know that he has and plays an important role in terms of what we do, and then also with the State Elections Board. So, Chairman Gunter, was there anything that you'd like to comment on before we commence on 986?
Well, I'm just hoping that we're all speaking the same language. Because I mean that's seriously an issue here. So
I don't know how to follow that up other than I'm going to be recognizing Representative Thomas to present the bills. Let me be clear, and we've spoken, Chairman Gunter and I have spoken with Representative Thomas. We are going to put our focus on 986. My understanding is you have a sub, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rarely spend too much. Most of you know me well enough to know I just get in, I explain the bill, and I leave it to the committee process from there. But I hope you don't mind. I'm going to opine here for just a second and talk a little bit about how we got to where we are, because I think it's fundamental to set that foundation. The chair was it was a subcommittee for artificial intelligence created by our chairman. Our Chairman Jones appointed me to chair the subcommittee. We held multiple meetings, solo and a joint meeting with the Senate. Our findings, AI is like, let's just say that the invention of the wheel has got nothing on this, okay? I mean, the wheel transformed society. What this is, it's going to take us long, just light years beyond whatever imagination. Star Trek couldn't even come up with what I think the potential of this technology. It's the first technology to replace white collar worker, and that's something that really needs to be thought of. It can integrate in almost every aspect of a Georgian's daily life, from transportation to healthcare to banking, education. In this case, we're going to talk about elections. And policy's been hard. This has been very, very difficult because there's almost no guidance from the federal government whatsoever, and it's really been fragmented and left up to the states to decide how to set policy, which I love. I think that's the best way. I don't like the federal government meddling in our business. So, Chairman Jones, just to hop off something you said, we had multiple discussions regarding the government's role in AI policy, and I believe, and I can't speak on behalf of you, but I believe we've came to the agreement that we should set up guardrails, but we should do that by still supporting innovation in the industry. I think that needs to be forefront. One other thing that I think is amazing is AI has potential to solve almost all of our workforce development problems, all these shortages that we have. And maybe I'm thinking a little bit of it doesn't on the farm, okay? But for the white collar shortages, it really does. And I think leaving people to go do what it is they enjoy, and maybe exploring that and backfilling those maybe more mundane positions helps. The machine learning. One other thing I want to talk about is machine learning. This is something that I thought was very important that came out during our subcommittees. Anything that you put in a machine that operates off machine learning, anything you put in there becomes part of the machine. That means if you put your social security number in there, it becomes part of the machine. If you put any of your family data in it, it becomes part of the machine. If you put proprietary information for coding, it becomes part of the machine. So I would tell you to be very cognizant of what you put in to any type of chatbot. So moving forward, there's a lot of different forms of artificial intelligence. In this particular case, we're going to talk about generative AI. So I thought the best way to define generative AI was to ask a generative AI to define itself. So I'm going to tell you what it told me. Generative AI, short for generative artificial intelligence, refers to a type of artificial intelligence that is designed to generate new content or data that is similar to, but not identical to, existing data. This branch of AI involves training models on large data sets to learn patterns, styles, and structures, enabling them to generate content such as images, text, or entire pieces of code. Generative AI models are capable of creating novel outputs by understanding and replicating the underlying patterns present in the data that they were trained on. Notable examples of generative AI include models like ChatGPT, which I pulled this from ChatGPT, so great shameless plug for itself. And these models have demonstrated the ability to generate human-like text, create realistic images from textual descriptions, and more, which showcases the potential of generative AI in various applications. That was what the generative AI told me what generative AI was. So I think that was definitely worth your attention. So as our chairman alluded to, I use the term nefarious uses of AI. And HB 986 is really what I believe to be the crossroads, an intersection of free speech and election integrity. And that free speech is fundamental to our society, the way that we've operated. And in some ways this augments it. During one of my conversations that I had, one of many, I got a friend of mine said to me, he said, Brad, listen, years ago, people could make pamphlets with your image that says, something up underneath it that maybe you didn't say, right? That's protected under the. Well, by the way, they can still do that, but that's protected under the First Amendment. So, but here's what's different about generative AI. Generative AI has the ability to take your likeness, to scrape it off the internet, take your likeness, take your voice, take your mannerisms. Take who you are, the essence of who you are, not just a flat picture, and it can create images, video, and audio of you doing basically anything, anywhere, to anyone. And that's where we start getting into the concerns that this bill is set to address. So with that, like I said, I wanted to give a little bit of background before we start digging into the crux of the bill. I want to make sure everybody's operating off the right LC number. If you please just check, it's LC 560069S. And does everybody have that? Okay. Bueller. Oh, thank you. So basically what this bill does is it begins, actually I want to talk about the sub just in case anybody had read the original version. It was very vague in the term of person, and that was one of my First Amendment right concerns. So in lines 33 through 35, we actually defined what we meant by person. And I'd also like to mention, to backtrack real quick, this is the beginning of a conversation. I really want to appreciate the feedback. I'm very grateful for Judy to be here. Just so everybody knows, if you see Rob Leverett and I arguing back and forth, this is just what we do. So don't take it. Don't.
I got my questions ready.
I'm sure you do. So, but I rely on you all. Like I said, I felt this is the intersection of First Amendment and election integrity. And when you put the two of those together, we really need to make sure we get this right. So please, any comments that you have, let's get them incorporated. Let's make sure we do this so it's going to stand the test of time. So anyway, obviously, lines 27, 28, it defines what a deep fake is, how it's created. Again, we define election. We define what a person means with regards to this code section. And then it makes it very clear that offense of election interference with a deep fake creates, publishes, broadcasts, streams, or uploads a deep fake within 90 days of an election with the intent to deceive one or more electors for the purpose of reducing a candidate's chance of being elected in an election or otherwise influencing the result of an election or referendum. The person commits the offense of solicitation election. I'll just skip forward here. Let's see. So purposes section, a deep fake that is created by a candidate is created or at a candidate's request that includes a depiction of the same candidate shall not constitute an illegal deep fake. And we put that in there because it's okay to use generative AI if it's going to help support your campaign. We wanted to make that very clear that this is really only for, salacious, malicious acts. It was not ever meant to be designed to keep anyone from using generative AI because, again, it's a great tool. And then it goes into the punishment, which is, or what the conviction is. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'll let you all correct me, whatever I'm supposed to say here. But a person who commits an offense under this code shall be guilty of felony and sentenced to a term of imprisonment not less than 1 year, not more than 5, and fine not to exceed $50,000. So, that's the first part of this. The second part had to do with, let's just talk about a deep fake and what would happen in the case that there was an accusation that this would happen. We needed to have a body to take a look at that. Right now, through the advice of Legislative Counsel, it was believed that the state election board would be the best authority to look into those cases. I'm still, and I'm not in disagreement, but I think there's some opening for campaign transparency, looking into that also, or not in conjunction with, but other than, alternately, I guess. So that's the bill in a nutshell, and I'd be happy to start taking any questions and obviously working through the process. So,
thank you, Representative Thomas. If you've never presented a bill in front of Judy, get prepared. Let's see. We'll start with number 11. Is that Representative Kendrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is about line 39, the part that says reducing the candidate's chance. So let's say that somebody who is not the candidate or not at the candidate's request creates a deep fake that would instead of reducing the candidate's chance of being elected, it actually increases the candidate's chance, like spreading information that is not true. This would not be covered under the bill because we're only doing things that reduce their chance. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you for the question. I guess the first part, dissecting the question, is you said a person, right? But is the person an employee, staff member, volunteer, or similarly? Do they meet any of the criteria of lines 33 through 35 of the person?
Under my scenario, no.
No. Well, in that case, this doesn't apply to them at all. And again, that was done, and thank you, because this is why you have a sub sitting in front of you right now, just what you talked about. We did not want to in any way encroach or rub upon any individual person's freedom of speech. So that this bill would not apply to anyone that's acting on their own behalf. I think that would be challenging to get through the court system, and not what I want to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman
Chairman.
Silcox?
I was just going to suggest that maybe we strike the word reducing to changing.
So Chairman Silcox, can you give the line number and exactly where?
Oh, sure. It's line 39, sub A, and it's reducing. It says reducing a candidate's chance. And I guess to Representative Kendrick's question, I think maybe just changing, that is, reducing or increasing. Changing would cover both of those. So could we just strike reducing and say changing instead?
May I?
Please.
I think the whole intent of the bill, Representative Silcox, is for people that would harm a campaign. If you're doing something that would support or help a campaign, I don't know why we would consider that to be a criminal activity, whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent. It just my 2 cents here, but obviously I'll submit to the will of the committee.
If you're creating a deep fake, I think, if you're creating something fake, a deep fake, whether it increases or decreases is not a good thing to me. I guess when I define a person in 33 through 35, right? I get that would be someone working for a campaign. This is say you just have a supporter. They create a deep fake of you that somehow helps you. I don't know whether it's right. If they're using your image, they're using your voice. Do I think ethically and morally is that wrong? Yeah, I do. But is it illegal? I don't know if I would view it that way. But that person wouldn't be covered under this. Is what
correct.
You're saying.
That's what. And if someone
and so if that person isn't covered, then they wouldn't be
that's fair.
committing the crime.
You're right. So that person may not be covered, but then a person within the campaign that's trying. Like I said, I think what I'm trying to get to here is if this is something that is a malicious act on a campaign to support another I guess I don't really follow it. So.
What I'm saying is that you could have people with malicious intent that would either want to increase someone's chances or decrease. They could be someone connected with a campaign, a person under your definition that would want to either increase or decrease another person's chances. Maybe the opponent. I just think changing addresses it addresses it more thoroughly, in my opinion.
Chair Silcox, can we hold that just for 1 second? I know Representative Kendrick wanted to say something, but I want to recognize Chairman Gunter real quick on, I think, something that encapsulates everything that is being spoken about right now, okay? So, Chairman Gunter.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my analysis of this and looking at it with the way we do elections today, reducing a candidate's chance is the intent of a lot of advertisements that you see on TV. They don't have to be truthful a lot of times. And they're out there otherwise to influence the election or referendum, whatever it is. In my mind, these A and B would fall under free speech and would not withstand a constitutional view of it. If you were to say accuses a candidate of criminal or immoral conduct, get more specific, you might be getting a little better. I don't know if that still passes, but or falsely accuses, yes. And then, or preventing voters from voting. That's kind of like yelling fire in a theater. You say something that keeps them from going to the polls. You get a bad disease if you vote on these machines, or whatever. It's got to be more specific.
Okay.
Okay.
Chairman Gunner, can you say the first one? I mean, I know you're not offering that as an amendment or anything, but the first one was
No.
around falsely accused.
Yeah, falsely accuse a candidate of any criminal or immoral conduct may be specific enough for a crime, for a DA to look at and be able to show that. I got friends back there from the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, and it might be good to consult with them to find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you said, this is the first step in this process, and that's why we're doing this the way we are today.
You've painted a picture here that we can all work with,
Right.
And I appreciate what you've done, because this gives us ideas about what we should be putting in here.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Crowe.
Thank you. Chairman Gunner, just for the uneducated, those of us who are not on judiciary, at least regular judiciary, A and B you said would be limiting free speech. Would it still be limiting free speech with the caveat of above where it says if they use a deep fake to conduct those activities? Is that still free speech, using a deep fake to carry out those A and B? Is that still considered free speech if they're using a deep fake to do those activities?
That's
I still see it as too broad, that it still falls under even if you're using deep fake to do it. If you think about the way elections are conducted today, and the advertising from different PACs and things like that, they use all kinds of material, all kinds of ways to influence your vote. That's all I'm saying is it's the same thing as that. So.
Thank you, Chairman Gunner. I want to look to the right. Chairman Perkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking over here, I got to tell you, I got a rash. I thought about my last time I was in House Judiciary, and the questions that we've had so far is a reminder of why, please, Lord, never again. Jeez Louise, we need some real people, to ask some questions to lighten the mood just a little bit. Thank you for what you're bringing. I want to make sure that we have the jot and the tittle is important. We need to have the commas correct. Make sure that we're not violating, but it is an issue that needs to be addressed. I also have concerns, and I'm very much a layman, but 39 and 40, to make sure that we don't inadvertently capture also, congratulations on using deep fake in Georgia statute definition, but that we also don't capture, let's say I'm getting close to the end of a campaign and I'm wanting to press forward about parting the Red Sea, if we're going to use another biblical reference, and I use my image to do this, or I climb Mount Everest and it shows me and I've never been there before, and to make sure that I am trying to influence an election, to Representative Kendrick's point, make sure we don't inadvertently allow my image and likeness to be constrained when I try to use it, even if it's not my voice nor it is abominable that someone would do that for ill-gotten stuff, that I would be accused for something that I have absolutely nothing to do with. But let's make sure that we short up so that I can use the affirmative as well.
Thank you, Chairman Perkle. Representative Holcomb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Chairman Gunter was heading in the right direction in terms of the criteria that he was proposing. And I also wonder if for some category of AI ads, whatever, they can just be modified to have a clear disclosure that it is a campaign thing, whether or not it's true or not true. But then the other thing that I'm thinking about, and this is my first time kind of looking at this, so forgive me if y'all are way down the road from where I am, is one little personal anecdote. In 2012, there was this commercial that was run against me that took a clip of something that I said on the floor of the House and completely manipulated it. And that was like technology, 12 years ago. But it was totally out of context, totally a lie, et cetera. What I think might be more impactful if we're trying to have things that move with expediency, felony charges do not. And so I would like to consider and explore whether or not it makes sense to have some type of private right of action, specifically an injunction, because if it is something that is truly defamatory, that should be outside of the bounds, and there should be some way to rein that in and rein that in very, very quickly.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
So let me begin by saying that I couldn't agree with you more.
All right.
I know, right? And I thought about this, and this was something that we worked through in the process. There should be something. If you have a deep fake video that is, defaming to your character, there should be some type of protection in there for you or for any candidate, regardless whether they're currently sitting in office or they will be in office in the future. We looked into that. We come up with a couple ideas. I'd happy to talk with you about what those ideas were offline. But it's a concern of mine too. And if we could get something like that included in here, I think it would be beneficial. So thank you for bringing that up. And I also wanted to bring something to Chairman Perkel's attention. For most of you know me that I own an engineering firm. I do a lot of engineering work. I'm usually the person that has to draw the sketches. And I draw all the sketches and I put them on a piece of paper and I take them into the room with all my engineers and they get to spend about an hour telling me how terrible all my ideas are. And then you know what? We walk out with like this really beautiful piece of, designed equipment. So I'm okay with this. Let's just, y'all come on with it. Let's pick it up. Let's incorporate this. Let's get a good bill out of here. That's all. That's really what I want today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Holcomb. Representative Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is great what we're doing today, have both committees combined. I think it's certainly an issue that's new, and as technology continues to evolve, it's important for us to have people who understand the technology side of things, along with some of us that look in the work in the legal field. So I appreciate yours and Chairman Gunner's leadership for bringing us together today. I'm a big fan of the show West Wing, and I remember one of the shows there. One of the campaign consultants said the biggest lies are told after the hunt and during elections, and I think all of us who's ever ran pretty contested campaigns can tell you that's absolutely true, and it happens on both sides. You have the negative side sometimes with the attack ads, and then sometimes you have candidates overstating their qualifications, and I think it's going to be very hard for us to put a framework in place that discourages individuals from maybe stretching the truth about themselves, and I think that's a challenge. Now, I also believe that we kind of have a framework in place of how you handle malicious and unlawful comments about people, and I think it's through the defamation statute, and maybe we would want to look at some framework through defamation. The defamation statute that we could specifically tailor for AI-generated content. But I also want to be very careful in terms of creating a situation where now we are weaponizing a state elections board. Because I think as you get into, we have 180 races that could take place in the House, 56 in the Senate. You got county commission, city commission, school board, statewide offices, congressional races, and I could see as AI technology develops, individuals who may use AI positively for their campaigns could or negatively. I mean, anytime you do something positive for your campaign, that has a negative impact on your opponent. So if we just created a right because because I put forth a video of me speaking Spanish, which I can in an AI-generated video to try and reach a constituency of mine. Well, I did that to reduce my opponent's ability to win. And I think, I don't want to create where we're having just tons of claims to the state elections board and weaponizing it, which would create just more chaos, confusion, and distrust of our elections process. Just something I'd like us to consider there.
And I think that's important. I think without a doubt, and I will speak to, I don't want to speak for Mr. Amati, but Mr. Amati and I, when we had a conversation, one of the things we talked about in his case, in terms of the commission, not weaponizing it and some of the carve-outs that we currently have in, I think, either regs or statute around something that can't occur within 30 days of an election because, to your point, Representative Kelly, around the weaponization of potentially the Ethics Commission as one example. So thank you. The chair recognizes Representative Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is very helpful to me to get my mind around this. I'm just, in response to, I don't know what lines 39 and 40 add. If you look at the elements of the crime, that's where my mind is. What are the elements of this crime? It doesn't have to have a motivation. It just has to be a false depiction that was created to give an image of a candidate that never existed in reality. Now, why does it matter? And if you change the word reducing to changing, then A and B have no distinction from each other. So what are the elements of the crime? That's where I'm trying to begin. And it has to do with the creation through technology, I think, of something that is totally false, never occurred. Does it always have to use the image of a candidate? That's where my mind is going. What are the elements of the crime of this? And the falseness of it is really essential to making the definition make sense. A little thing, that's sort of my big picture thing. What are the elements of the crime and what do you have to prove? To me, it relates to the technology of creating a totally false image for something that never happened factually.
Never occurred.
A smaller thought is on line 37, you use the term broadcast streams, uploads, which are technology things that I understand. They're not, but what is more clear to me is that you distribute. Distribute is not a technology term. So I can't figure out why you wouldn't add distribute to incorporate whatever's going to happen next besides an upload or a stream. This is a helpful discussion. We are doing something important here.
Yeah.
And the creation of a new crime is also always creates a heavy burden on us. And I would like one of the DA folks now or later to tell me what this definition, this language creates as the elements of crime, and then we pare that down and make it more precise. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. Representative Thomas, I've seen you get here early and leave late working on this bill, and you've gotten a good start on this. Looking at some other states, it looks like Texas, Michigan, Florida's got one in progress, but they have like a disclosure or disclaimer or a notice or a warning label on ads that use deep fake, whether it's, in support of a candidate or otherwise. And, with the First Amendment saying you got to be content neutral, having that warning label or disclosure that you're using some sort of AI might be something to add into the mix on this, because it seems to be working in some other states.
And I agree with you, Representative Reeves. I will tell you that I think this is one piece of really a very large, the beginning of a very large set of policies, right? With the guardrails to keep us out of trouble. And the best thing that I can tell you is transparency needs to be really at the root. It's the best way that we can keep the guardrails up, but still and not stifle innovation. So I couldn't agree with you more. So I'll get that included next time you see it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Rees. Representative Evans?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks everybody for the discussion. I think it's very good to have us all together. I have sort of a two-part question. It's more policy, as in why are we here to do this? And stepping back, and it's already been discussed a little bit, people lie in a lot of ways. I can lie to somebody person to person. I can lie by just using my voice or somebody else's voice. I can write something. To me, this is just, while it's alarming to us because it's AI and it might look like one of us, it's still, at the end of the day, just another lie. And so I'm wondering if there was a discussion or if there was any fact gathering about how this is more harmful than other kinds of lies, which is why we would want to create a crime for it when we don't make a crime for other lies. So that's one thing. And we obviously have ways to deal with the problem here in the way that we deal with other lies right now, which is defamation actions or false light actions, which of course that's civil and not criminal. So I wanted you to touch on that if you would. And then secondly, I mean, we all live in this world, and this is obviously very personal, and this is an example that we could think of immediately about the use of AI to tell a lie about somebody in a campaign. But I also think it's important for us as policymakers to back up and realize that other people can be as harmed or more harmed by AI generated lies or false depictions for harassment purposes, for I'm trying to get you fired from your job, I'm trying to get your wife to leave you, whatever it is. And I would hate for us as policymakers to try to address something by creating a crime that affects us most personally while ignoring these other situations. So I guess one, why would we make this a crime for this kind of lie as opposed to other kinds of lies in elections? And then secondly, why would we make it a crime to lie only in elections and not in other circumstances that people deal with throughout the state? It's sort of a two-part question.
Very great questions. Thank you. So I guess to start off, were you here when I kind of went through the very beginning, or you were? So, and that's, you bring up a good point. This is exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about my friend and pamphlets with your image with, words that you didn't say printed on it. I think the difference here is this is you saying an image of you using your voice and your mannerisms, spouting lies about yourself. And now, is that fair? Is that truly protected speech? I don't know if it is. I don't think it's right to take somebody else's image and to use it against them, weaponize your everything that you are, your biometric data, and use it against you. And that's really what the crime is here. This is what we're talking about. Now, the second part, and I also want to make it, the part that you're talking about is actually another piece of AI policy that I'm actually working on, but it's broader reaching. And I don't know if you've ever sat in front of Judy before, but it's not fun. And I don't want to bring a big bill in here. I want to bring a small bill in here. So I think, so when I do strategic planning for my business, we have to look at certain things like what are the triage, right? What's the things that are probably the most impactful on the immediate, and I would say that affecting elections is, elections are integral to democracy. They're everything we are is based off of your representation in government, and when you're that's I see that to be the immediate, whereas we need to also take care of, I'm sorry, Sam, you're like, but there's people, I'm going to tell you, you have no idea how sinister this technology can be. I was shocked. It can do things that I don't even want to say on here in committee, but I'd be happy to talk to you about it. So yes, people can be harassed using this technology. People can be defamed using this technology. People, and what's even scarier is trying to get to the bad actors is really, really difficult.
one of the things that I talk to people about, they have a technology, and one thing I would like to tell all of you: if you don't have a code word with your family, a code word that only you and your family members know, you do not text it, do not email it. You need to get one. I'll talk a little bit about a personal experience that I had, and why what you're talking about is important to me too. About 6 years ago, I got a phone call. It was a phone call from a man who said that my wife had run into his, driven in his brother. And he said that he had my wife and he had a gun to her head and he was going to kill her if I didn't give him $10,000. Okay? That's the scariest phone call I've ever had in my life. And, thank God at the time there was no, generative AI to have a picture of my wife that sounded like her, that looked like her. So I texted my wife. I said, honey, are you okay? And, thank goodness she texted me back. She said, I'm fine. I'm in a meeting at work. So I think about that, but then I think about what I was at least thought, well, I didn't hear her. I haven't seen her. But what happens when you have a generative AI do that? You could literally a fault call from your wife's phone or husband's phone, and it's them saying, hey, I think we got a long way to go with AI policy. But I think that this is something that's the immediate need to give us the time to set something that makes sense in place. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Floor Leader Hung, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very important and complicated bill, Representative Thomas, so thank you for bringing it. Just a few questions on, and I'm being a lawyer here, so I apologize. I know that on the substitute, you defined person. I don't see the person throughout other than the person that's actually committing the offense. Was that what the intention was?
Well, and I'm not a lawyer, so, but I will tell you that my understanding of the way criminal law works is you can't hold a company criminally, but you can hold a person criminally accountable. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And so are you, when you define that, are you saying only the people that you define as a person can commit this crime? So essentially people that are involved with a campaign or some kind of a political group can be, is that?
Yeah, it would be the people that, I guess, commit the act of creating the deep fake. They would be, I guess, criminally covered under this. Not, I guess, not a company. I don't think I'm answering your question the right way.
Yeah, so because it's specifically defined, it would be if, Rob was just somebody random, not involved with any type of political committee or party or candidate or anybody, employee of anything, and he decides to go out there and create a deep fake and put it on his Twitter, he will not be part of this.
No, he wouldn't be covered under that.
Okay. Is there a reason why we were so specific?
Yeah, because it gets down to this First Amendment issue. And I think there's another way to go about this with individuals versus what we're trying to do here.
Okay.
Which is part of what I was speaking about with Representative Evans. We're just in the very beginning of something. So that would be something I would see get picked up under this supplemental bill that we're not even talking about today. It's still in the works. There's several conversations with me in the Senate and other House members trying to get that pulled together.
Okay. And this is more of a technological question that I don't know. I know Representative Holcomb had discussed, there's got to be some kind of a fast mechanism when we do see a deep fake to remove it, have an injunction, et cetera. Is that, can we track it so fast that if we get an injunction that we can find who the person is that's putting it out there, if it is just somewhere online, that's...
No, it's a great question, and again, it's one that we've explored a little bit, outside of this process, moving into it. What we had originally looked at was the possibility of, and again, this is just ideas. I hope you don't mind. We're going to spitball here a little bit, bounce some ideas back and forth. But what we had originally thought about was creating something that allowed the campaign transparency group to make a statement saying, hey, this was a legitimate consideration or a legitimate, I'm trying to think of how we use the exact words. This is there's reason to believe that this is a legitimate deep fake. Not saying that it is or it isn't, but then to conduct a investigation. And then once that's finished, at least, if someone has a deep fake that's been perpetrated against them, then at least they have something that they can cling to say, hey, wait a minute, this was a deep fake, or it wasn't a deep fake, but at least I have some backup to say, hey, there's some legitimacy here. What I'm saying, this was a deep fake. But the problem came into investigating deep fakes outside like campaigns and things that are covered under campaign transparency. So we moved investigative ability to the elections board. And that was kind of how we got there, but we didn't really get back into that mechanism of what happens, the second that one is believed to be committed against any candidate. So I hadn't got back to that, but it seems to be a concern across the table. So I think we probably should address it a little better.
I saw that we did, so line number 37, it said within 90 days. Is there a reason why we limited to just 90 days before an election?
It seemed to be, sometimes you look externally to see what other places are doing. It seemed that 90 was kind of a number that was consistently used throughout other states. So we wanted to stick with that. Again, I felt like it was probably, a First Amendment issue. I'm trying to really keep the scope tight. If it's the will of the committee that they would prefer it be not limited to 90 days, I'm amenable.
So Representative Hung, one of the things that I've been thinking about is, could you create, for lack of a better word, a good housekeeping seal? So, for instance, the state of Georgia, I don't know if it'd be through the SEB or through David Amati's commission, but basically you voluntarily sign up to be a good actor. And that good actor, and it could be an individual candidate, it could be an IE, it could be a PAC, whatever. You're saying, I want to be in the process, the elections process, and I think that goes to Representative Evans' question. I want to be in the process. And one of the things I'm going to do, in addition to mailers or TV ads or anything, is use generative AI. And I'm going to go ahead and put my watermark on there, and there's going to be something distinctive about it where, knock wood, I'll say duplicating it will be difficult, not impossible. Nothing's impossible. This way, when the voters see that it has the good housekeeping seal of Todd Jones or of Stan Gunter, it's like, okay, there's a presumption of, I'll say, a good actor versus a bad actor. There won't be anything on there in terms of that. So been going back and forth. I don't think there's any wrong answers right now, but I do think we need to figure out a way to instill confidence. If you want to see something, I think that should concern us is if you go to the Turkey elections last year and how deep fake was used on elected officials. And to Representative Thomas's point, I won't go into details because I don't think it's appropriate, assuming the kids are watching this right now. And just go ahead, Google it, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And we don't want that to happen in our elections in any way, shape, or form. So, but thank you. Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Thomas, I appreciate the bill. I share your concerns regarding where AI has gone and the dangers that it does pose to our elections. I would echo a few of the comments made by members here. One, I think in light of the challenges, especially as we're going into an incredibly important presidential election this year, that at least two additional things may be added to the bill. Okay. One that does ensure that any candidate or organization that utilizes artificial intelligence or AGI has that public disclosure, right? Especially if something is created by AI, whether it's a speech, whatever it is. I think that just transparency aspect will be helpful and should be relatively simple to implement. The second thought would be Representative Holcomb's point, in which I don't think a felony necessarily would dissuade someone from engaging in this. Some sort of injunctive relief, some sort of immediate action, I think would be more effective if there is something that is used in a nefarious manner. Two more points, or a few more points, if I may. To Judge Gunter's, to Chairman Gunter's point regarding lines 39 and 40, certainly lots of challenges regarding ensuring that we're protecting First Amendment free speech rights. Lines 38, for me, was kind of a distinctive aspect that goes to, I think, Representative Kelly's point, the intent to deceive, really kind of being that distinctive language in which essentially, in my mind, it's how do we prevent technologically advanced libel from harming or undermining elections? Because I think there's already that framework in which we can, at the very least, ensure we're not infringing upon free speech rights with very well-established precedent. And again, if you have that immediate private right of action to stop any sort of harm, I think that could be helpful. Last point, two more points, if I may. So one, in light of the fact that whether it's injunctive relief or criminal penalty, and if one of the potential elements of a crime would be the intent to deceive, I don't know how well equipped a state election board would be to do any of that. So I think that it'd be nice to have that re-examined as to what would be the best mechanism to ensure that we are protecting elections here in Georgia going into this November. Last point, which I think Representative Hong mentioned, is lines 33 to 35, person. My reading of the change between the original version and the substitute, in which we added the definition of person in the substitute, is that we're narrowing the application of the bill, which I don't necessarily think, especially if we're going to be implementing or applying the defamatory framework and precedent, that any additional limitation may be otherwise necessary. Right, because then that just becomes an additional barrier where, let's say it's a completely nonpartisan actor who's an anarchist, right, who just wants to cause a little bit of trouble, right? That person should also be captured under this as well. So, but I appreciate the intent of the bill and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I'll keep it short.
We still have, it looks like a Christmas tree, so in terms of what the board looks like. So,
well, I
keep
just
it
want to
brief.
talk about and maybe I could have some the legal minds here on the panel. But the story I was talking about with the guy that called me about my wife. How do I get him? How do I make him stop? I don't know who he is. Can't track him. So, I'm not sure injunctive relief is going to get you there. And I'm, like I said, I'm not a legal mind. I don't fight these things in court. But that's one of the biggest problems that we have is you can mask your you can mask your IP address. You can double mask your IP address. So trying to find these people is really, really difficult. So we'll call it the lone wolf. You're lone wolf. If the guy is halfway smart, you're not going to find him. So anyway, we'll go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your questions and your input.
Thank you, Representative Saines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Thomas, for bringing this bill forward. I was excited about hearing about this, but have you ever gone to a party and the host invited House Judiciary to it? But nevertheless, I wanted to ask, just assuming the felony provision stays in, on line 55 through 57, when you mention the state elections board shall release a report, does that in any way preclude any investigatory body from looking into it? Because my understanding, unless that's through the Secretary of State's office, a peace officer would have to do that investigation. So is the state elections board handling that through the Secretary of State, or can the GBI assist with that and they're just releasing a report?
So the problem with the state election board is pretty small. So it creates an additional burden on them. And I don't know if they necessarily are the best fit for this. So what I wanted to do was get enough on a piece of paper to get this discussion going and pick up those comments. So it sounds like we got a little bit of work to do on that, because this is one that's come up a couple times. Let me dig into it a little bit more and get back with you.
Thank you.
Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, couple points on line 33, the definition of person. Towards the end of it, it says similarly affiliated individual or political party. But we see on third-party ads all the time, this is not affiliated, supported, or endorsed by said candidate. So I'm concerned that this may be used as a loophole by them just saying they're not affiliated with said candidate that they're trashing. So that's one concern. My other concern has to do with a broader idea. This defines AI, generative AI, as creating deep fakes. But in a broader sense, this is special effects. This is video editing, audio editing. We can take any of the video from any of our floor speeches and get it edited, spliced into a speech that one of us have never said without using generative AI. That is still false and misleading, right? So we should be going at this in a broader, encompassing sense. Special effects makeup and artists are so good that they can make you look like Sam Park, and you could be doing something else, right? So the overall arching thing is falsifying. And then I think what we need to get at to limit the damage of AI deepfakes and any kind of falsifying information is to put the punishment perhaps towards the distribution of said material, because we can use AI right now to detect AI deepfakes, right? YouTube has the capability of detecting AI deepfakes. So perhaps the distribution method should be where we should focus some of our efforts to make sure that the false information doesn't happen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Long. Chairman Blackman.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A little late to the party, but so this may have been covered by some of the, the more learned legal minds here, as you referenced. But, have you bounced this off? And you probably have. But I mean, off of like things in existing code, say for instance, mail fraud or something that might already have some language,
I guess.
I mean, a mailer could go out, for instance, that was, very much.
I think that.
Right? Maybe.
What the crux here is, elections law is really complicated.
They are.
I'll size beams and, factories all day, but election law has passed me, so I have to rely on legal counsel to fill me in on what they think is best. But I also would like to say that we have to have it somewhere to start, and you, since you weren't here, that's what a lot of what this is. This is the beginning of our conversation and trying to get a bunch of really great minds in a room and vet a bill, but it's just a starting point. So yeah, I expect next time we come in here we'll have a much more vetted bill. So thank you.
Well, it was wasn't critical in any way. I mean, it meant to be as friendly as any other question.
I took it that way.
All right. Well, thank you, Representative.
And if you can make me look like Sam Park, I could stand to lose about 30 pounds, so I'm good with it.
Sometimes it's just, if I may, Mr. Chairman, sometimes if you may find things that couple with the concept and the idea that are already existing, that may or may not apply. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you for the guidance and advice.
Thank you. Representative Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this piece of legislation. I have one question. If I'm looking at line 36 and it says that a person commits the offense of election interference, if we go down to line 39 and 40, the question that I have particularly for line 40, it says otherwise influencing the result of an election. To me, I see that as broad language. There are so many things that can be done to influence or that can be argued that it influences the results of an election. So how would we even go about proving that something, an act done or not done, can influence the result of an election?
Mr. Representative, I would tell you that if there's 2 lines on here that we've talked about to death, that's 39 and 40. I obviously need to start over there. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I came in late, so
no,
I may have
that's
missed
completely okay. But obviously, thank you for reaffirming what that several others have had a concern
Okay.
about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He was only seconding the motion.
Seconding the motion, absolutely.
Representative Cox.
I just wanted to bring up lines 39 and 40. Just kidding.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, you to just kind of simplify this down somewhat, who owns our name and who owns our image and who we are? And to me, when I process what AI can do and the great things it's going to do for Georgia and the country, I mean, it's going to be fantastic. I mean, the opportunities are just vast. There's going to be a lot of bad things that happen as well, and we're going to learn through it. But we own who we are. You are you, and I am myself, and artificial intelligence is not going to transform who we are. So to me, transparency is key here. And if we can get the transparency, which will come through ethics, I think that there's some policies, maybe how we define AI in a transparent way legally within our state. I don't know if that currently exists. If it doesn't, it needs to, because that's going to help us. And when we're going into, I mean, AI can fight AI. So if we get these negative deep state political runs against us, I mean, y'all, we're not going to find out who did it. I mean, it gets into the dark world, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, we're dealing with Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. And the reality is that any one of us can be attacked in incredibly manipulative ways, both good or bad, right? The story can be pitched any way it needs to be and can be wrong. So I think what Chairman Jones said about putting a seal or some method, and I don't know that people out in the districts we represent care about a seal or not. I don't know that they do, but at least we have transparency. At least it's there so that if it comes up, we know where it comes from. But I don't know that we're going to trace this stuff down to even have a legal action. That's my thoughts, but I'd like to see some definitions put in place. I think that may help us, but that's my thoughts.
So
to your
to
your comment, Representative Cox, I would say, there was this old saying, "An ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure." I think in a lot of ways, what you recommended, Chairman Jones, is a little bit of prevention. At least we talked a little bit about providing, what happens if one of these are created, and maybe that seal, at least you can come back and say, hey, look, see, this doesn't have this particular watermark on it. Maybe that does what it is we're trying to do without being so focused on the back end that we're missing something we could do up front. So thank you. I think that's a really good suggestion. I appreciate you bringing it to me.
Yeah, Representative Cox, it just reminds me of a story just a couple months ago. A very close friend of mine, CFO of a nice-sized company, ransomware. And, of course, the first thing he learned, unfortunately, was there was no such thing as tracking them to Russia. The FBI can't do it. The NSC can't do it. No one can do it. You pay the Bitcoin or you don't pay the Bitcoin, and you let the cards fall from there. So you're absolutely right in terms of, and I think for the federal elections, I think it's even a greater risk that it's all, say, an outside entity versus, a state or local race per se might have a higher propensity to be domestic. But to your point, still hard to trace. Are almost difficult to trace, impossible to trace.
Good
So
will overcome at some point.
Yeah.
We're going to make this right because the transparency is key, I think.
Thanks. I'd like to announce a miracle has occurred and the board has no lights. In all seriousness, is there anything else that we would like to hit? I think everyone, I think I can speak for Representative Thomas. This was exactly what we were looking for.
This is exactly what we wanted today.
We needed, and forgive probably the poor metaphor, we needed to put the bill up like a piñata and just see, what shook out. It's important. What I'd like to do is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on what we're doing generally speaking or specifically to the sub before we move on 986? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay. So what I want to do very quickly, since we have Judiciary here, I'd like to move to I'll say the state bill, for lack of a better phrase. Are you prepared to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's move to that state bill. And in deference to our Judiciary only members who may still be in here, if you're on our committee too, but Judiciary only members will get I'll guess first shot at any questions or comments. So in case you have somewhere else to go, we can go ahead and take care of that as efficiently as possible, because I know we lose Chairman Gunter at 3:30. So if you'd like, go ahead and make sure you just say the LC, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So now we're moved on to House Bill 988, LC number 560057. There's three main purposes of this bill. It directs the Georgia Technology Authority to provide policies for AI usage in state agencies. It directs GTA to take an annual inventory of AI usage by state agencies and basically create an annual report, send it back to the governor's office, the speaker, and relevant committees. And that's really probably the 50,000 foot level of what the bill does. I don't want to speak on behalf of the GTA, but I believe they're here today, and they can be happy to speak a little bit about it. And I appreciate you all being here. So I think I think that's probably a good enough explanation. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take it. But that's what it does.
Representative Kendrick kicked us off at 986, so she can kick us off at 988.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
Not
Mr.
39
Chair.
and 40, please.
Ironically enough, it is around 39 or 40. But so I have had issues in the past of getting reports, specifically because they are only submitted to a certain group of people.
Mhm.
Is there anywhere in the code, or is a possible add to make it available to other members of either the public or the General Assembly? Just because I know in the past I have had such a hard time as a sitting member getting copies of reports because they only go to a certain number of people.
Yeah, I think transparency is very important. So, yeah, right now the way it's written on line 41, so you're safe. It says chairpersons of a House Committee on Technology, Infrastructure, Innovation. So, I mean, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to make an amendment, change it to the House Committee on Technology and Infrastructure Innovation. If you want to wipe out chairpersons of.
Yeah, I think one of the things we need to be thinking about is we can delete chairpersons, but also think about, I want all 236 members to have immediate access to it. I don't want them to feel as if there's something that they're not receiving in terms of information, so they can make reasoned decisions. So I think what we might want to do, Representative Thomas, is in addition to maybe taking out chairpersons, is be thinking about what we could possibly do in terms of rewording, in terms of making it generally available to the members. And that includes the House and the lower chamber.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, I'd be open to amendment if we so choose. We amend it here if that's what you want to do. That's fine.
Let's go ahead and get counsel on it right
Yeah,
now,
that's
if
fine.
that's okay. If there can get some wordsmithing on that, please.
I have seen some language in the code that does exactly that. I'm trying to find, see if we can copy that language right now. So if you want, I can make something up. If not, then you can give me just one moment to see if I can find.
Yeah, we're not on time schedule, so feel free. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Kendrick. Chairman Prince.
Thank you, Chairman. And my only concern is you said GTA's here. I just left an appropriations meeting with those guys. Are they prepared to take on this task or is that going to require additional funding?
If you don't mind, Mr.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, if they would like to get up and speak real quick,
This is yes or no, I guess. We're good. Okay. That's all right.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair, thank
There you
you.
go.
I don't want to see you again.
Time is money. Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Thomas, I was just going to ask you if you know of any agencies right now that are currently using AI, just in your research of this, are there ones that are using it now, and how are they using it? I imagine there's a lot of ways to improve efficiency and speed up maybe some research and the needs of our constituents. And I was just curious if there's any utilizing that now.
I can't answer the question. I'm not aware of any that are, but that's the whole point of what we're trying to do here.
That's why we need a report, huh?
Yeah, we need another report. So I hope.
Thank you, Representative Kelly. I think one of the things, Representative Thomas, is has there been a consideration, and this was a conversation that was had today on the floor around 988, was there's an argument to be made that rudimentary machine language is used, for instance, in spam filters. So I believe the state, and I can't speak to GTA, could speak to it, and then the departments can speak to it. We have spam filters on, I believe, I hope all of our systems, and then also we have virus protection, et cetera. So if there's an argument to be made that that's rudimentary machine language, is that the intent of this report? And if it's not, and I don't believe it is, do we need to refine not just maybe the definition in 12 through 15, but also in 19 through 22 in terms of it talking about the inventory of all systems that employ artificial intelligence. So could there be some consideration made between now and next Wednesday when we reconvene with council and maybe with GTA and others, just to see is there a way for us to make sure that, to Representative Kelly's point, that we're not just hitting, I'll say, Outlook's filters, but rather the things that I believe this entire committee is concerned about?
So lines 12 through, with all the definitions here, starting line 12. This is the NIST definition. And so I felt like it was probably the best fit for what it was. NIST isn't considered to be in any way a partisan group. It's very nonpartisan. So that's where we pulled this definition from. If we feel like there needs to be more refinement or some exclusionary language to, keep spam filters out of it, obviously I'd be amenable to that. But that's fine. Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
I wanted to just give one other example. Microsoft now has a bolt-on to PowerPoint called Copilot. Okay, that's their AI tool. They're using GPT-4. I think we would all agree we're not concerned about PowerPoint and its ability to design your slide. We are concerned about Copilot, though, and how that's potentially being used or not used. And I'm not suggesting it's nefarious. It's the actor that makes it nefarious, not exactly not exactly Copilot itself. So just thoughts like that, if you could get with GTA, Council, and others. Thank you.
Yep.
We do not have any other questions. Chairman Gunner, I wanted to turn it over to you for any closing comments, if you have any.
Mr. Chairman, we had the language. Did you find? I just wanted to remind you.
Yes. Oh, then go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Depending on how you want, but we can, on line 40, you can read it, governor and lieutenant governor, and shall make such report available to other members of the General Assembly, or I can add that language to the end of that long list of individuals who are already named.
Representative, do you have a preference?
I'm again to the will of the committee. So
okay, Representative Kelly may have an opinion on to the will of the committee.
Well, I kind of had an idea of just have it sent to email to everyone. If you just wanted that to happen, you could say such report shall be transmitted electronically or mailed to the offices of the governor, lieutenant governor, semicolon, add and members, strike chairpersons, add members of the House, strike committee on technology, all through that, pick back up on line 42, and Senate, period.
Representative Thomas?
I would. That was completely
Council,
fine.
is there any reason why we can't accept that?
None.
Any objections? Thank you, Representative Kelly. So we have that change, and then you'll work with GTA
I will.
and others in terms of seeing what we can do on 9888 to be prepared for next week.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. Okay, now I will hand it off to Chairman Gunter, please.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Chairman Jones for coming to me and asking about including the judiciary on this. This is a huge and important issue, very complicated, and I appreciate the opportunity for our committee to have some input on this. So I think it'll be a much better bill when it's done.
We agree. And right now, I think based on the sweat on his brow, he agrees too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then I just echo Chairman Gunter. Thank you to everyone. This was a great work session. Maybe next time we'll define it as a work session. But we do appreciate that, and we'll get back a sub back to everybody. I don't know if we'll get back together or not, but we'd love to be able to get Judiciary's formal or informal feedback.
We're available anytime.
All right. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned, 3:20. Thank you so much.
Yeah.